The fulfillment of our manifest destiny to overspread the continent allotted by Providence for the free development of our yearly multiplying millions. John O'Sullivan, 1845. It is the Bible which proclaims the divine command to subdue and replenish the earth, for it is the only race that has ever been a regenerating force. Senator William Gilpin, 1846. God has not been preparing the English-speaking peoples for 1,000 years for nothing but vain self-admiration. He has made us the master organizers of the world to establish a system where only chaos reigns. Senator Albert J. Beveridge, and not even the good beverage, like a beer or a cocktail, it's the bad beverage. In the year 1900, these men during this time are the bakers, the founding chefs of the American manifest destiny.
Go forth and conquer the savage in my name.
John O'Sullivan, a real estate developer with a flair for divine marketing. He brings together the perfect team. Religious fanatics, William Gilpin, and racist white nationalists of the time, Senator Beveridge. Together they took greed, they took God, and they went forth with genocide. A real estate developer going into politics and using God to put forth a very selfish agenda. Why would this be relevant right now? This is the Chud Report. I'm your host, MJ. If you end up liking this, make sure you hit a like, make sure you give it a subscribe, but let's get into it because I've been thinking about manifest destiny a lot lately. One of my heroes, George Carlin, he once said something along the lines of, Germany lost World War II, but fascism won, right? And for once, I think George almost had it. Because in America, I don't think fascism came with us. I don't think it came home. I don't think it won later. I think it was already here. The rough draft of it was already being written. Fascism did have a name in the 1840s because, here's a picture of Mussolini in the 1840s. And that picture's blurred out because that's a ball sack. That's what he was swimming around in. Little Mussolini sperms. Bonito wouldn't be born for another 40 years. And he would have coined fascism, the term, until 40 years after that. And also YouTube here, I'll clear that. That's not a ball sack, all right? So don't give me a strike. It's a kiwi. No need to take the video down. It's just a kiwi. But if I did have a name for fascism back then, before Benito named it, I would call it Manifest Destiny. Fascism 101 is simple. Mythic origin story. We're the chosen people. God came down. He chose us. Jesus hugs us at night. And I hope that's a banana in Jesus's pocket. National rebirth. Make this country great again. Make America great again. If you think Donald Trump coined that, hell, if you even think Reagan came up with that, you do not know American history. The politics of purity. The real citizens versus the invaders.
Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within.
And, of course, the militarized order. Boots on the ground fixed everything. Mass men in the streets. Kidnapping fixed everything. Now let's look at manifest destiny. Check every box of what I just gave you. These men at the first using religion, using the church to move west and commit atrocities. Mythic origins. Providence chose us. They believed they were the chosen people. Plymouth Rock, right? Rebirth from coast to coast. This has been ordained by God. What did the one guy say? He has made us the master organizers of the world to establish a system where chaos currently reigns. And at its very core, manifest destiny was about civilizing the savages. Either you become civilized or we exterminate you. That was it. And even sometimes they didn't even give them that choice. They just exterminated them. Mormons handing out smallpox blankets. And they did it all with that militarized order, right? I'm talking about cavalry first, treaties later, if at all. And if that handshake meant anything after it was done. You see what I'm saying about these being baked into the shit pie that started America? You know, that's not a new recipe. That's the original American cookbook. All Mussolini did was slap a name on it and use it again, right? He didn't have to invent the fascist language, because when your founding pantry already looks like this, you know, a divine mandate and state-sponsored violence, the frontier never really ended. It just got a Homeland Security logo. And I'll tell you what, I'm one of those people that says context matters. Yeah, people can be victims of their time. 100%. This was 2 centuries ago in this country, right? People didn't know what germs were. Anesthesia was new. Antisepsis wasn't standard, and bleeding a patient was still considered helpful. But also, between us, the Mormons kind of knew what germs were, right? Go ahead, take another smallpox blanket. A what? Oh, nothing. A normal, perfectly fine blanket. Cell phones didn't exist back then, kids. They didn't even have these phones, these old rotary phones, right? And the most popular podcast at the time was Theo von Holzhorn talking about burning the witches.
Listen up, friends of the Auditory Telegraph. Yeah, I'm calling it that. Witches ain't good news. You got a woman boiling roots at midnight? That's not a hobby, that's a curse incubator. She'll hex your cow so it stops giving milk.
And this is the exact conundrum we run into when talking about this subject, because we don't want to judge the Americans from 200 years ago. You shouldn't even judge me from the 1990s when I said everything was gay. I was very much a victim of my time, and I used the R word all the time. It was the 90s. And a lot of stuff was gay around me, okay? So I was a victim of my time. Don't judge me for 25 years ago. Don't judge them for 200 years ago. But we still have to operate with the logic that the Christians have from 2,000 years ago. That's the conundrum.
You know, I'm finally gonna write that book I've been talking about.
You should, Paul.
These Americans 200 years ago didn't know what a germ was. When the Bible was written, they believed illness, imbalance, sickness, and everything else came from demons. They didn't even have an idea of what was going on, right? Even the rash on my balls, they'd be like, that was from a demon, that rash. And they would be right. Her name was Alicia. Alicia, you bitch. And you know what their treatment plan was? It was herbs and prayers. Rub this crystal on your balls. Drink some ginseng and you'll feel better. Which is basically RFK's health plan today, but with better branding. And after about 4 Mai Tais, I had this exact conversation with one of my in-laws. The man she elected at the time was literally putting troops in the street. I mean, he still is, but at the time he was saying, go ahead and target practice on these democratic cities. You know, he's cutting off the funds to blue states for terrorism, disappearing people, and the party's comfort with this, you know, Nazi iconography. Jokes from the master race right here. They're called the Young Republicans. And even though they're not kids, they're like 25. I think one of them was 31. This is who they're saying the future of the party is. And it happens way too frequently. This thing happens way too frequently to be considered an outlier. Even JD, the VP, who's married to an Indian, who has an entire Indian family, whose all his kids are Indian, even he won't separate himself from it. So I have to assume that's the tent now. You know, we got home, and this is what you're greeted with. This is right where we live. Look at this. Look how comfortable they are.
Good for you.
Look how comfortable these people are. And so my in-laws' response to all this are, there are no Republicans. There are no Democrats. Only God versus the devil. That's what she said to me. It's God versus the devil. So of course I said, cool. Which side do you think I'm on? I mean, I'm definitely not on the side of the guy putting AI videos up of himself. The president putting up an AI video of himself. Literally taking a huge dump on the citizens he's supposed to represent. That's not the God side, is it? I mean, I dropped out of Catholic school after 2nd grade, so maybe that was something they taught in 3rd grade, but that doesn't seem like the God side. So I ask again, I'm not the evil one, right? And she gave me a look that was basically the prequel meme, right? Me as Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman's a little hotter than me, but just by a little bit. Anakin, I'm not the devil, right? Anakin? right? And that's why I made this episode. I take in so much information because I don't want to get things wrong. You know what I mean? I don't want to believe something I see online. I want to verify it. I read history. I've worked in politics for 25 plus years. I keep up. But we couldn't talk. We couldn't have a grown-up conversation. I can't talk to any of the Chuds anymore because our sources were two very different newspapers. Two newspapers separated by 2,000 years. I had 4 Mai Tais, so I wasn't at my best. So I just pulled out the things I remember from Catholic school that didn't really make sense. The thing about shrimp, you can't eat shrimp, you can't eat pork, you can't mix your fabrics. You know, if your kid is stubborn and rebellious, you could stone them. I think she actually liked that one. You can't touch a menstruating woman. Slavery regulations exist, but they don't call for abolition. These are things I was just pulling out from my youth that I had questions about in the Bible. And the point I was trying to get across unsuccessfully is that society changed. We discovered electricity. I'm talking to you now through a series of interwebs. I think that's how it works, right? You can type across the world to me. This dude's a libtard, more like the Chud report, and it shows up instantly, you know, with the 3 misspellings and the flag emoji. But this book, the rule book she's running, the group that they are running, once again, I want to hammer this home. The Bible has not changed in 2,000 years. Okay, so there was the one rewrite, right? The New Testament. Few generations after. They had some patch notes, but the basic operating system, the way she's deciding who's good, who's evil, who's an invader, who deserves compassion, it's still first century firmware. And it's written in metaphor. And the thing about metaphors is you can take them, you can twist them, and you can make them mean anything you want. And that's why this book is so important to them. It's why it's been used by zealots and good people for 2,000 years. And one of the things from the Bible was right. You know, I don't touch my wife when she's menstruating, but that has nothing to do with the Bible. It's because she can be a real asshole. You know what I mean? But I want you to remember this section because I'm going to come back to it. In today's society, here's where the permission slip kicks in. If you believe God pre-signed your politics, right? If you honestly believe that down to your core, then cruelty that comes from that, cruelty delivered by the people who tell you that they're the godly ones, it only feels like paperwork afterwards. Subscribers of this channel know, I think my tan's wearing off now. I had a pretty good tan, but we went on vacation. We went to Hawaii because the old Hawaii credit card got filled up. So we got points and we flew there for free. And I only remember it's named Kauai because it's the chill island. And I only remember that because of Kawhi Leonard, the laziest basketball player I've ever seen. So that's how I remember Kauai if you're having trouble. It's a great island, pretty laid back. The buses are not on time. Benito Mussolini. But this keeps happening everywhere I go. Our pool bartender, he threw up a Sig Heil. I didn't have a picture of him. I just got out of the pool. All I had on was my bathing suit. I just went up to get a gin and tonic, and he threw up a Sig Heil. And then he dropped the N-word about 20 times. This guy was wider than me. This guy was 25 years older than me. I know they want you to get used to it, right? They want to pretend like it's ironic, but it feels really good for them to do it. But back in my day, it was the drunks who were loud, obnoxious, and racist, not the bartender. This guy was stone sober, throwing up an Elon Musk. And then, like I said, I come home to this, What's going on? What's going on with this country? And when I sat down and thought about it, I think this brand of Christian nationalism that I'm seeing all over the place, that we're seeing baked into this dictatorship of a government, I believe it is just the inverse of manifest destiny.
Those of us who have a sincere, deeply held religious faith, it's part of who we are. It helps determine what we do, how we see the world. It's a worldview, so to speak. And I think everyone is guided by some worldview. Mm-hmm. We have 435 members in the House of Representatives. All of us have different deeply held philosophies and viewpoints, and so you can't separate that from who you are and how you make decisions. But, it's not unlike what the framers of our Constitution believed. I mean, earlier generations of Americans, as recently as just a few decades ago, spoke and thought and talked the same way. when we say it now, it seems unfamiliar to people, but it's exactly a reflection of who we are as a country.
I agree. A reflection of who we are, who we were as a country. This is what Mike Johnson understands. No matter what Trump does, no matter if he sends your jobs to Argentina, gives them $40 billion to take over your job, no matter if he crashes out the stock market, coming attractions, while making billions of dollars off crypto, no matter if he puts mass federal troops in the street, soldiers to kidnap people without due process. All Mikey Boy does here, all they have to do is lift up that God shield right in front of their face. It's because God's having us do it, right? He's literally making AI videos of himself defecating on us. You know what I mean? Was Jesus into scat porn? I don't know. I missed that part of the Bible. And I want you to think about how they talk about us, how they talk about anybody that opposes this batshit agenda that they're putting forth. Because let's go back to Manifest Destiny, right? Christianity was used to say everything was okay. It's okay because we're the Christians. How do we know they're the Christians? Well, they tell us we're the Christians, right? And everybody else is godless. Think about how they talk about us. Think about how they talk about anybody that ever criticized them. The godless liberals in their godless cities. We need God everywhere. We need God in the school. We need God in the textbooks. We need God in the bedroom. We need God in the bathroom. We need God every single place. Just think about it. Because they used the same thing back then. It was okay to kill the people who are already here, the indigenous people. It didn't matter. You know why? Because they were godless. What God? I mean, they had their own gods, but those gods don't count. Only their God counted. We need to conquer them. It's God's will. It's manifest destiny. It's okay to slaughter them. This is our country's history. This is our country's present. And I have to tell you, when I talk to these people, my God, how good it must feel to be so sure of yourself like this. You know, I wish I was dumb. I really do. Because they're so self-assured. The ones literally dropping shit from the sky. They're so self-assured that they are on God's side. They never second-guess themselves. I second-guess myself 500 times a day. They never second-guess themselves. They never second-guess their leaders. They don't even second-guess their future. They don't even think about their kids' future, what they're leaving for them. Just every day, look at this, just trotting the kids out to sing happy birthday to Charlie Kirk in a restaurant. Some of these guys don't even know. This is weird. This is cult behavior. And it's crazy to think that somehow Charlie Kirk was less annoying when he was alive, man. It's good versus evil. It's fed to you. It's fed to you straight from the White House.
Proved that the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration and not the White House and not the Republican Party, who is standing up for law-abiding Americans, not just across the country, but around the world. And not,
you know what I mean? It's so stupid. That's what I'm saying. Just once I wish I was dumb so I could she just lists off all these things. Democrats are terrorists. Democrats are this. Every bad thing she could think of. And sometimes I wonder if she leaves that cross on when she eats that spicy Cheeto. Right?
That face and those Katie and those lips, they move like a machine gun, right?
Oh, look at it. Those lips, they move like a machine gun. Why she's eating that Cheeto down there. And by the way, YouTube, once again, this is just a Cheeto in a pair of underwear, okay? This is just a kiwi, so we're good. We're good right now, all right? Nothing wrong with this video. Nothing to see here. These are only examples I'm giving to help with learning, okay? Caroline, wipe off your mouth, girl. The very same religion hasn't changed, 2,000 years old. The very same Bible was used to justify kidnapping human beings and then making them slaves in the field. You know what I mean? That wasn't just some fringe interpretation. They had to get creative, of course. They dug up some obscene beef between Noah's kids, the so-called curse of Ham. And to be clear, this isn't the curse of Ham that Kristi Noem suffers between her legs. That's a different curse of Ham. Oh, I don't have a picture for that one, you do. But that's a different curse of Ham. Roast beef! And twisted it. They took the curse of Ham, twisted it into a divine permission slip for race-based chattel slavery. Right? Then they cherry-picked Paul telling slaves to obey your earthly masters. conveniently leaving out all the parts about love and liberation. It's not about Democrats and Republicans. It's about God versus the devil. This was God back then. You know what I mean? And today God says, see, it's not kidnapping and torture. If the Holy Management Handbook says to be a good employer, be a good farm employer here, or you'll be sent to El Salvador. Sound familiar? Does any of this sound familiar? It's just biblical. So come on, Caroline, come out here and show us that cross, girl. Feed us that propaganda. But just know, Caroline, just know Charlie Kirk's wife, I think she's in the WWII now or something. Just know that that same Bible was also used to keep anyone like them, to keep women from having a voice in society. Pastors stood at the pulpit and they argued with a straight face that Eve's original sin proved women were too emotional to be trusted with a ballot. That's right. If you've ever wondered why women couldn't vote so long in this country, they were using the Bible as their basis. They would quote Paul saying women should be quiet in church, so obviously they should be quiet in government. They warned that letting women vote would destroy the American family, because if mom has an opinion on tax policy, she'll forget how to make that meatloaf, you know what I mean? And the whole country would collapse into chaos. Don't touch a woman when she's on her period. Don't let her vote. And the 2,000-year-old book didn't change. The targets did. It was never about scripture, right? It was about using God. It was about magical realism on people that need a crutch in society, taking them and telling them, giving them an order. Who's on top, who's on bottom. And they can put whoever they want on the bottom of the shelf, as we're seeing now, right? Now it's Mexicans. Mexicans are the worst there is, right? Liberals are the worst there is. Used to be black people, used to be women, probably will be again. And today we have a felon who pardoned 2,000 January 6ers. And they're saying it's okay because it's righteous, right? They're combining it. If you watch how they act around these January 6ers, this isn't just a political pardon. It's a baptism. And it's so chillingly familiar because America has done this before. America is the experts on botching the follow-through, on botching the progress from the lesson they were supposed to learn. We had a national reckoning once. It was called the Civil War. And the period after was called Reconstruction. It was our one chance to actually cauterize this wound of white supremacy that our country was built upon, right? To rebuild a country on a foundation, a new America, on a foundation that wasn't a crime scene, with the ghosts of the past constantly coming back and haunting us. America got about 10 years into the most important social project in our history, right? They looked at their watch and said, this is getting hard. Are the Confederates sorry yet? Let's check in on them. If they're sorry, let's see what they're up to. But the Confederates, who were busy inventing the Ku Klux Klan and writing laws to criminalize black existence, they said, totes, super sorry about everything we did. We totally learned our lesson, closing the door on their robes behind them. Can we please have our states back now? And, a few statues of our generals for morale. Please. And instead of setting an example, instead of punishing them, the French, they don't like me very much, but I do appreciate the way the French handle revolutions. Instead, America said, all right, those guys in those robes down there, they've learned their lesson. So it's a deal. Here's everything back. No repercussions, no reconstruction. Just a quieter, more subversive, more invasive type of white supremacy. In 1877, the United States pulled troops from the South. They handed the keys back to the very traitors that we see today, right? They tried to burn the whole house down. But we let them rewrite the history books. The history books are written in Texas. We let them skip so many parts of this because they wanted you to forget. They didn't want you to know who they are. And now if you even try to teach it, Republicans lose their mind. White guilt, white guilt. I don't feel guilty. I'm white. But people need to know the past. They need to know the sins this country was built on. Otherwise, you're never going to exercise them. Exercise, not you, Scooter. Go back to your message board. And the result of this was a century of Jim Crow, lynchings, voter suppression, state-sanctioned terror. We didn't heal the wound. We covered it up with a flag. And we pretended those screams we were hearing was just patriotism. And what happened? Boom, brings us right back to January 6th. I mean, you see the pattern of violent insurrection against the United States, fueled by a myth of stolen glory. And that's the response from the party that incited it. And that's the response from the party that incited it. What do they say? Well, first they said, oh, they're hostages, right? All the January 6 people in there, they're hostages. They're political victims. They're patriots. Trump pardons them. And now if you talk to them, they pretend like it was the FBI undercover doing it. But who was in charge of the FBI on January 6th? This guy was. Please let me come back dumb. If reincarnation exists, just let me come back dumb. January 6th was Reconstruction 2.0, was speedrun edition, and it's just going to keep happening, right? We're doing it in real time. We're letting them off the hook. We didn't even wait 10 years. You know what I mean? By the time they finally got them arrested, they were in jail for like a year or 2 years. We didn't even wait the 10 years for trying to overthrow the United States government. The message is the same as it was in 1877. In America, there are no consequences for white right-wing rebellion. There is only permission, and it is only getting worse. And if you don't believe me, the Republicans invented an entire group that doesn't exist, the secret Antifa club, right? If you're anti-fascist, you're in this. And now they've convinced them that they're actually the real terrorists, these people that don't exist. And they're doing it to give them permission. It's all pretty easy. This isn't complicated stuff. The people they're doing it on are just really dumb, so they don't have to make it. Reconstruction was a cautionary tale. Amnesty without accountability is invitation. And that invite has been accepted. If I had to guess, I'd probably say, 90% of ICE are just Proud Boy members, right? I don't know, because we can't see their face because they're masked. That's where we're at. This is where we get darker. Manifest Destiny wasn't just a mission statement for expansion. The dark heart beating inside of it was manifest death. If Manifest Destiny was the divine mission to expand American civilization, Manifest Death was its quiet, brutal engine chugging along. It wasn't just about taking land. It was about ensuring the people on that land, the savages, the godless, the non-white. It was about making sure their culture, their lives ceased to exist. It was a logic that gave us the Trail of Tears, the massacres at Wounded Knee, which I think Pete Hegseth reversed. I wonder who he's signaling to on that. You know what I mean? And the smallpox blankets my people back in Utah were handing out. It was the belief that for us to live, for us to be able to enjoy our lives, those people must be removed. And that's what we're seeing at a reboot today and into the foreseeable future. The ultimate goal is the elimination of the other from the body politic. They don't want to debate you. They want to erase you. And if you want to bring up this guy as a counterpoint to that, 95% of this Chud's arguments would devolve into some kind of Christianity argument. Because as I've said before, it's a 2,000-year-old book that can be used for anything. They want to disenfranchise you, deport you, silence you, call you an invader, a demon. My own in-law. You're part of the devil's army. That's the new Manifest Death, a nationwide gerrymandering of our soul. First time we let these traitors go, they built statues to the losers. And this time, the losers are planning to build prisons for the rest of us. And just like before, they believe they have God's signature on their paperwork. They honestly believe it. So when people say we need to move on, ask those people to where? Because last time we just moved on, hey guys, did you learn your lesson yet? Last time we let that happen, it took a century of blood to get back to just the mediocre of where we were. Rights without teeth are just manners, and manners lose to the mob every time. The Chud Report. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If it's your first time here, you like this episode, make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe. You've been here a while. Support the channel. This channel needs some support. Become a member. Like $2.99. Boom. Yeah, I went on vacation, so it's been a little sporadic, but I'm back now. Go to the comments. Say hi, and I'll see you next time.
Proved that the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration, and not the White House, and not the Republican Party, who is standing up for law-abiding Americans, not just across the country, but around the world, and not